Hello everybody, my name is Nick and you are watching for the Leet unboxing video of the Canon's EOS C100 Mark II. Now with this camera you do get a few things. Now let's put the camera on the side. Now firstly you get this thing. This is so that because you can replace this handle, or you can take it off, and then in its place you would put this so that there would not be a hole in there. Now obviously you do get a battery charger. Now this is a battery charger for the batteries that this camera is using. Now as you can see you do get two power cables. This is because you do get a brick. Now this power brick means that you can just plug your camera into a wall and you can record as much space as long as you have a space on your battery, on your memory cards. Sorry. Now also you get this plate which goes down here. This is so that you can mount this camera on something on two different types of tripods. You have a small thread here, or regular thread, and you have a large one that's mounted on the camera. Right now, on this camera, you do have a small thread as well, so you don't have to replace it if you don't want, and you can still mount your camera on a regular tripod. And also you do get this neck strap for your camera as well. Now with it you obviously get the battery which is right here. Now this is the Canon's BP 955, and this battery has this button here which when you press you can check how much power do you have left on your camera. And you do get this eyepiece as well, and you get this handle here, which is really important, not just for the ergonomics, which is obviously a big part of this camera, but also because what we have on the other side. What we have here is the two XLR connections. Now this means that you can connect, for instance, your shotgun mic either with one of these XLR connections or with the regular mic connection, which is placed right here. Now this is very important because you do have mic controls here. You do have two gain dials here, and you have other controls for your two channels, and you do have a built-in stereo microphone as well. Now because you do have all of this, this makes this camera extremely easy to use for a single person. To basically one-man team can record both audio and video with the professional quality. Now let's go over the specifications really quickly, and then I will go more into details who is this camera meant for. Now this camera can shoot Full HD at 59.94 frames per second with 34 megabits per second. You obviously do have 50 frames as well. You have 23.98 frames, 24 basically, frames per second with 24 megabits per second. You do have two SD card slots which are right here. You can record on 16 gig. On 16 gigs you can record for about 60 minutes to 95 minutes in Full HD, obviously. Now when it comes to the sensor, this camera has a Super 35mm equivalent CMOS sensor. It's a Super 35mm equivalent. As you can see, you do have a white dot here and a red circle, which means that you can still use your 18 to 135mm lens and all the other crop lenses. Now this camera also has a screen here. this is OLED screen, and you do have a LED viewfinder. OLED screen is 100% coverage with 3.5 inches in size, or 8.77 centimeters. Viewfinder has 99.8% coverage. Now, important thing about this camera is that you do have a built-in ND filter. Now, because you do have a built-in ND filter, you don't have to bother with the ND filters that screw on top of the lenses, and this means that it will be a lot easier for you to use this than DSLR, and also you can still have that great depth of field without having to sacrifice on anything else. Now, when it comes to the ND filter, you can set it at off, 2, 4 and 6 stops. When it comes to the white balance, you do have 2 customizable presets. You can have auto setting, obviously, and the white balance goes from between 2000 to 15,000. When it comes to the focus, you have a manual focus, obviously. You have a one-shot AF, continuous AF and phase AF. When it comes to the ISO, you can set it from between 320 to 100 and 2400. When it comes to the connections, you have a Wi-Fi, obviously. You have as well as HDMI and USB connection. You have a remote connection, you have headphone connection, you have a DC in here, you have AV out here, and you have a microphone connection here. Let me just show you. And really important is that you do have these 2 XLR connections as well. And because all of the because you're able to control your audio, this means that this is a great camera for run and gun type of shooter. Now, when it comes to the battery can last anything from between 130 minutes to 390 minutes, depending on which battery you are using and depending on what type of shooting you are doing, whether it's at Full HD at 60 frames per second or whether it's some other setting. Now, very quickly, who is this camera meant for? Well, this camera is meant for anybody who is a field shooter. When you get only one chance to shoot something, then this is probably a good choice for you. Now, whether it's a documentary, whether it's field reporting, or whether it's a wedding, this is definitely a great camera. You have a extremely good autofocus, you have ISO sensitivity that's just well, extremely good. You have all of the settings at the right there at your fingertips. You have zebra, speaking, magnification, AF lock, you have one-shot AF, there's a white balance, there's ISO gain, there's shutter control, there's push auto iris, and ND filters is just there. It's just extremely easy to use, and it's so intuitive. So this camera has 17 customizable buttons, and this camera is great if you're shooting weddings, for instance, because if you're shooting weddings and the bride says I do, and there's your half an hour limit or whatever 25-minute limit on your DSLR, and she says I do right when your camera stops, so then you have to have a backup camera at all times running from the separate angle or from the same angle. With this you do not have to. You have 2 SD card slots, which means that you can do the redundant stuff and basically record on both cameras, on both cards simultaneously, which is probably a right thing to do because you never know when one card might get corrupted. You always have a backup. Or you can record on one card and then on the other. If you're shooting something that you can shoot, which you can do retakes of. If you're shooting something that you maybe do not need so much as high ISO performance, but you're more in the need of a full of a 4K video or something else, you might be better off getting a Sony or maybe even a Fuji or something like 5D Mark IV from Canon, if you already have a lenses, then this. So field reporting, definitely. Or for weddings, this is definitely something that you should consider. If you are shooting documentaries, definitely something that you should consider. But if you're shooting short movies, or if you're shooting anything that you can do a retakes of, or if you need your camera to have a capability of taking photos, then you should look somewhere else. Now leave me a comment below. What do you think? What's better for you? A DSLR or something like C100? You're watching Leet. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment and subscribe. Until the next time, goodbye.